Hello guys, from Brooklyn, New York, this is Carlos P. Beltran, and welcome to the Freelance Journalist 5-Minute Talk Show. Today we're talking basics, gear, what's essential in order for us to be able to tell a story and be commissioned. Joining us from El Salvador is Neil Brandvold, a freelance photojournalist and filmmaker based in Washington, D.C. So Neil, I have print and radio journalist friends who want to transition onto video, but they don't quite know how to do it. What would you suggest in terms of gear?
So I originally started just doing photo, and then I switched over to video. I'm a Nikon guy, so I was shooting with a D800, basically the 5D Mark III of Nikon, with a Rode mic that I would switch over. I'd either use the Rode mic or a wireless lavalier. So I would say like a 5D Mark III or a Nikon D800 with good sound. Sound is key.
Right. So when I started, I was using a simple DSLR, remember it was the Canon, with a tripod, a Rode video mic for on the go, and a Sennheiser wireless lavalier mic for interviews. Back then, DSLRs were a new thing, so it was a little bit pricey for me back then. How much could you get some of this stuff for nowadays?
I think you can get some of these, because that's the exact setup basically that I was shooting when I was working in like Congo and different places. But you can get like an old D800 for probably around $2,000. You can get the Sennheiser set up for around $500. And a Video Pro for the video mic for like maybe $400. So like if you do it on a budget, you really could get that under $4,000.
Nowadays, the one-person crew is a very common thing. So you don't only shoot the video, you need to know how to edit it as well. Which software would you recommend for beginners? And also, are there any resources you would recommend for people wanting to learn how to edit?
So I'm using Premiere. And I know there's like the big debate between Premiere or Final Cut Pro. It's pricey the way that Adobe's doing things now, and you have to do the monthly subscription. So I'm paying, around $50 a month for Premiere. But the other thing that I would add, I use lynda.com a lot, and I pay for a subscription, and it teaches incredible classes on how to edit. And not only that, you get, all of the Lynda stuff, so it's on different gear, it's on shooting, but the lessons are totally priceless for learning how to edit.
Current projects. What are you working on right now? You want to tell us?
So I have a few projects, but right now I'm based in El Salvador, and I'm shooting a documentary on what it's like to be a child growing up in El Salvador and all of this gang violence. And we've got all the children that are fleeing El Salvador going up to the U.S. and kind of basically just showing kind of day in life of a child in El Salvador.
Are you doing that independently, or are you doing it for a network?
Independently, and we've got some funding to shoot it, and so I'll be here for like the next year shooting it, and then hopefully going to a big outlet once we have the final cut.
And for this documentary, you're working with basic gear, keeping it minimal, or are you going more high-end with your equipment?
So I've stepped up. I've shot a lot of big documentaries and stuff with a D800, but now I'm shooting with a Sony FS5 and a lot more professional gear. So I have the FS5, a series of lenses, better mics, and I'm shooting with a Phantom 4 drone as well.
I've heard a lot of people talk about how they want to spend the extra money to get a fancy 4K able camera. But most of the work that I do, and most of my colleagues do, is meant for the web, social media. So does that really make a difference?
I mean, really, if you look at it, you can shoot everything on an iPhone if you get good sound, you can shoot, you don't need all of this gear. I think most people are watching these videos on their iPhone. They're not, 4K and all of this stuff is kind of absurd. You don't need that.
Thank you, Neil. We have a few seconds left. Any advice for your fellow freelance journalists around the world?
Content is king. Content is the most important thing. Don't worry about gear. Don't worry about sound. All that stuff. If you have a solid story and you have, that is the most important thing. So focus on the storytelling and the characters and the plot. And then secondary to that, you should worry about the equipment. But really focus on getting a good story.
Neil Brandvold joined us from El Salvador. Thank you, Neil. For more short interviews and advice, subscribe to this podcast. And if you like what we're doing, we would love it if you could take a few seconds to leave a short review for this podcast on iTunes. Our goal is to reach 100 reviews on iTunes by our 10th episode. And if you're looking for free, hands-on, practical advice on video production and freelance journalism, head over to carlospbeltran.com/tips. This was the Freelance Journalist 5-Minute Talk Show. We'll see you next time.